Do you ever find yourself asking the bigger questions? Like, how do we overcome injustice? And is it even possible to save the world? You can come grapple with meaningful questions like those at a free lecture this Sunday called Humility That Overcomes the World. You'll hear from speaker Mark McCurdy's, who will share a fresh look at Christ Jesus' teachings and talk about how the power of God's love can overcome injustices and bring healing to your life. This event is sponsored by First Church of Christ Scientist and is open to all ages, genders, sexualities, religious backgrounds, or lack thereof. The talk is at the Fluno Center on University Avenue. Find out more at christiansciencemadison.com.
Today on CityCast Madison. We're on the eve of the election. Tomorrow is Election Day, and on your ballot, there will be 4 referendum questions: a proposed state constitutional amendment, a budgetary referendum from the city, and 2 referendum questions from the Madison School District that total more than $500 million. So, what's causing the need for money at Madison schools? To give you the most updated and thorough information on those MMSD asks, we spoke with the Superintendent of Madison Schools, Joe Gothard himself. It's Monday, November 4th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Hi, Superintendent Gothard. Thanks so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Great to be with you today, Bianca.
So how are you doing?
Well, it is a week before Election Day. And for so many reasons, I'm both ready for this week to be over, but also filled with a lot of wondering and waiting too.
Yes. We're all feeling it for sure.
Definitely.
So we're in here in large part to talk about the referendums. Let's back up for context and how we got here. So in the last week of June this year, the Madison Metropolitan School District's Board of Education voted unanimously to approve 2 referendum questions for this November ballot, one for facilities and one for operations. Your 2-year contract officially kicked off July 1st, the next week. What has your role been in crafting these referendums? Were these plans already signed, sealed, delivered when you arrived, or did you have a major hand? What did that look like?
Yeah, I'll actually back up. I applied for the Madison job in October of 2023 and went through the process of being a candidate, and of course was doing my due diligence, researching, watching board meetings, listening to the community to the extent that I could from St. Paul, Minnesota. And I knew it was pretty evident to me that by the time I got to the face-to-face interview as a finalist for the Madison job, that it was a pretty well-known conclusion that there was going to be the need for additional revenue via a referendum. I also knew that the district was finishing up on the 2020 facilities projects and that there was the vision for a long-term facilities master plan, but not the actual plan. So I knew that would be work too. That would be likely I would inherit and have to assume responsibility for. I actually started my contract May 20th. I was in Madison for the May board meeting. And the reason that I came early is because of the knowledge that this was likely to be the case. I didn't want to show up in July after, engagement with the community and staff was complete. And, even following the board meetings, I wanted to be here to shape and to truly have responsibility and accountability for the questions that were put in before the electorate on November 5th.
And yeah, so now you are here trying to get out the word and calling for folks to vote yes for these. Why make this ask of Madison taxpayers? Like, what's at stake here?
Well, again, my ask is that people vote. I'm not here to advocate how people vote. And the reason that MMSD and over 120 school districts in the state of Wisconsin, more than a quarter, are going to their public taxpayers for an increase in funding is because our state has not kept up with inflation over the last 12 years. And in fact, they have imposed revenue limits that cap the amount that we are able to collect to operate our school districts. And that is everything from transportation to the teachers that we hire, to the mental health supports that students need, to their curriculum and materials that we provide to our students. So it's everything in our general funds go to cover those costs. And it's left Madison and so many other districts just behind. In fact, last night, our board approved two budgets for this school year, one in which we are spending $46 million in one-time funding to balance our budget, and the other, assuming that we pass the referendum, we would still be spending $22 million in one-time funds to balance our budget. So this is a very serious structural deficit that has been building for years, and that we are really concerned about being able to sustain our future and do the great work that our families, our children, and our staff want to do.
Yeah. And for the referendums, the asks collectively, there too, are in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm curious, is this money meant then to address kind of an immediate problem, like our district's hair is on fire right now because of inflation? Or is it more to set up the district for success down the line, somewhere in between?
Yeah, so this is it's somewhat of a complex equation as I think about it. We were building towards this, again, with revenue caps and without inflationary increases to per pupil funding. I'll talk about special education funding separate as well. That's built in addition. But then the pandemic hit. During the pandemic, as hard and difficult as it was, a time none of us ever want to go back to, districts did receive federal relief funds, and we were able to do some pretty unique and innovative things. We were also able to, in some ways, hold our districts harmless to be able to keep operations moving forward. Those funds expired in September of 2024, this year. So we're no longer able to rely on those as well. So it's been kind of this tether back to now we're back to the lineage that we were on, before the pandemic. We were already tracking that our revenues and our expenditures were out of balance. Inflation and the funding we received has not kept up with inflation. So we knew that we were going to have to either do one of two things: make extensive cuts, reduce, all spending in MMSD, or continue to ask our taxpayers to provide additional funding. That's on the operations side. On the facility side, we have 53 buildings in the Madison Metropolitan School District. Many of them are rated very low according to our facilities condition report, and we have prioritized the next 10 buildings with the lowest grades on our facilities condition report to either replace or do heavy, deep renovation on, so that our students can have modernized facilities that can be safe, orderly, and be able to meet the learning needs of 21st century learners in today's schools.
Yeah. And, we talked to Cap Times reporter Kayla Wynn about her reporting. And, some of these facilities are not only decades old, but one getting close to 100 years old. And you can't just hope things stay the way they were when they were made just that long. It's dangerous.
I think the children and families and staff in MMSD deserve better. They just do. We have not done a great job of allocating funds for deferred maintenance and regular routine maintenance over the years. And what it's left us with is that we are able to address things that are emergent. Leaky roofs and potholes in parking lots and light bulbs go out and things of that nature that, of course, you have to do on a regular basis. But it hasn't allowed us to really get into our buildings and facilities and do anything with real structural efficacy at all. In fact, we have some boilers that are hardly functioning. And when they do, we're not able to regulate heat throughout buildings. So on a beautiful late fall day where the windows are open and you want that cool air to come in, there's every bit an equal amount of heat being generated in the building as well, because the systems are just that old and not able to function. And I was in some rooms like that in the last couple of weeks. And again, I think our students and our staff and our communities deserve better in their schools.
Yeah. Was there ever a consideration of a smaller facilities referendum? Like $500 million it sounds like a lot, but...
Yep. Definitely sounds like a lot. Remember, we came off of $317 million for our 4 comprehensive high schools, for Capital City High School, and for the new Southside Elementary. So this scope is appropriate. For us, it's a matter of how much can we do at one time. I've come out of a district where we did $700 million of work in the last 7 years. So I understand when you have a portfolio that's dozens of schools, that it is going to take some time. And we have to ask ourselves, these questions. Are we okay with only doing this work in some schools? Do we want to make sure that students across our district are able to experience updated, modernized facilities? And if so, how can we place the highest priority on those buildings that are in need of replacement or renovation? And that's what we brought to the voters Tuesday night.
Yeah. And so is this an equity question in part in what you just shared?
I think it could be. It's really easy for us when you have 4 comprehensive high schools, you know, on all parts of Madison where all high school students attend. We're not able to do that with the remaining 53 schools, but we can, start with our regional middle schools and eventually work our way to getting into our neighborhood elementary schools as well. Now, there are a few elementary schools that are on Referendum 2024 because they're either attached to a middle school, or we've identified 2 in Anana and Crestwood that are both due to receive extensive renovation.
Yeah. So, what have you been hearing from parents and residents about these asks? Like, what's the temperature like? Do you know?
Well, I think a few things. One, it's a big ask. So people, again, want to know a few things. And of them are, how will this impact me? And what are you going to do, with the investments? And that's where this conversation gets rather nuanced. I mean, again, I just shared with you that we are deficit spending, meaning that we are using one-time funds to make sure that our budget is balanced, which by law has to be annually. We have to have a balanced budget with the state of Wisconsin. So we don't have revenue coming in to replace that. We are at our limit. So essentially, I want listeners to think about it this way. We have a cup, and that cup is full of water, and it has a cap on it. Okay, so there's no more water could come into that, and we can't spend any more either. What we're asking our voters for is permission to remove that lid and use a bigger glass. So we can pour that water into the larger glass, and we can also collect additional revenue so that we can operate our school district. That's what revenue caps do. They limit the amount that we're able to use in spendable revenue. You may have seen, or viewers may have seen that 2 weeks ago, Madison was headlines were that we've received the largest increase in state aid coming to school districts this year. And that is true. But because we have the lid on that glass, we can't use any of that additional aid for revenue. All of that additional aid goes to our taxpayers. So what it will do is it will reduce their tax bills, but we still need to collect it back to increase our revenue by $30 million in the first year of our referendum.
Wow. I'm hearing a lot of overlaps with also what the city is facing. And we know that the city also has a referendum question on the November ballot. They've had quite the time battling misinformation about theirs. Like, how about y'all? Like, is there any misinformation that's out there that you would like to dispel?
I don't know that it's misinformation. I do this for a living. So these numbers and I've been a superintendent. This is my 12th year. So these are things that are just as common to me as tying my shoes in the morning. But that's not the case for parents who just want to make sure their kid got on the bus on time, had a great day at school, got their homework done, and that they signed the latest permission slip. I know how that goes. So that is not top of mind for everyone to understand the intricacies of school finance. So we've been trying as best we can to make sure that we're putting out information that is clear. We're out engaging with the community at various sessions to engage with our community. And we're continuing to update that on things that we hear. As it relates to the city, again, Mayor Rhodes Conway and I have presented a couple times together, and it's fascinating because you could literally take out City of Madison and some of the other information that would tell it's the city or the district, but the concept of our budget constraints by the state imposed constraints are the same. They really are. A couple of differences with their budget, they're on a different fiscal year. So they are a January 1 to December 30 fiscal year. We are July 1 to June 30. So we're not at the point right now where we would be reducing anything for this school year. We've already, again, approved last night 2 budgets that would use one-time funds to balance our budget for this school year. But you can rest assured that after November 5th, we are going to start making strategic decisions about where we are going to trim costs from MMSD. And that's with or without the passage of the operations referendum.
Yeah, that was my next question was, what about cuts if the referendum doesn't pass?
Yeah, definitely. We just are 81% of our funding is salary and benefits of people. The more than 6,300 people that make up this incredible school district. we just will not be able to sustain a workforce of that size. So the question then is, and no one likes talking about this, where? How are we going to engage and make decisions? And of course, those will be, really challenging conversations for us to have. But we also have to look at effectively and efficiently operating a school district moving forward as well. I want to get out of this place where we are adding and cutting, going back and forth. We need to build a sustainable pathway forward. We believe the referendum 2024 is one way to do that. But I can also share with you, Bianca, that my commitment to this community is going to be for continued advocacy as well. And I'll share one other example of that. Many people in the community don't understand that special education since 1975 in this country has been woefully underfunded. The Individual Disabilities Education Act is a federal mandate, meaning that we have to provide a free and appropriate education to students and provide them services in order to achieve that. And I agree with it wholeheartedly. I'm a Madison kid. I have had an educational experience since kindergarten where my friends and my classmates were students of all abilities, and all were my friends and my classmates. And this year, the funding that we get from the federal government and then through the state covers all those costs except for $66.4 million. That's the amount that we are underfunded in special education. And to give some context to that, that would be more than 600 teachers if we were to just convert that into teacher allocation. And this has to change. I mean, there's just no way that districts are going to be able to continue to move forward when we're woefully underfunded and we do not receive inflationary increases that are keeping up with the realities of operating a school district in 2024.
And you have these mandates that you have to meet and want to meet.
Absolutely. We have to. It's core to MMSD. It's core to our mission, but it's becoming harder and harder. And let's not kid ourselves. You have likely heard about the workforce shortages that we have. Special education is one of the largest across the country right now. And I wonder why, when the message is sent that you have to do this really difficult at times and challenging work, but we're only going to fund you from the federal government at 12% instead of the 40% that they promised back in 1975. And then states have the decision whether or not to make up the rest. And for whatever reason, it isn't the priority in the state of Wisconsin.
This episode is brought to you by Iams Pet Food. When you choose Iams dry dog or cat food, you can see a difference in your pet with your own eyes. Healthy energy in 5 days, healthy digestion in 10 days, and healthy skin and coat in just 25 days. Satisfaction for you and them. Guaranteed or your money back. Feed Iams dry dog or cat food and see a visible difference. Visit iams.com/difference to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means? It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Black Friday week starting November 21st.
I just spent some time with a few teachers from different schools across the district. And the big topic was teacher retention and paying teachers. Like, it's absolutely a big thing. So where is the district at on that front? We're talking about special education teachers and the need there. And what about more broadly?
Well, we came in this, first of all, I want to give credit to truly everyone in our community, but especially our HR department, and those who are out there generating interest in bringing all staff to MMSD, because we started the school year in a much better place in terms of vacancies that we have in the past and through the pandemic. So we're really proud of that work. One of the reasons is that we did a couple of things. We made some strategic investments in increasing our teacher salaries by 2.06%, half of the 4.12 CPI inflationary index. And we have also promised that if the referendum passes, that other 2.06 will be provided to teachers on the other side. So that was a commitment that we made. We believe that it's an investment that's worthwhile in MMSD. We want to celebrate our great workforce. We also found and determined to make some strategic investment in some salary compression that we've had over the years, and how people were placed on a salary schedule and making sure that we are allowing all of our staff to adequately grow and be compensated to the level that they deserve based on their years of experience and areas of expertise. So these are all signals to our workforce that they are valued. And, we want to continue to do that, but we need help too. We absolutely do. And I know for a fact, every time I talk with groups of students, they talk time after time about their teachers, about the supports that students need, and how they really see the impact of, this, these workforce challenges manifest themselves in their experiences at school.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Teachers just mean so much. I want to say I'm biased, but I haven't really been a teacher, but to me, it's the most important profession there is. Shout out to everyone else, doctors and whatnot, but teachers are number one.
Yeah, Bianca, I could share with you that, I'm back in Madison. I born and raised here and worked for 20 years in the district and then left for 11. And I think one of my biggest, not really surprises, but maybe my greatest areas of pride in coming back is reconnecting with my students from the past and students who I got to know either from teaching or coaching or working with in the community. And you're right, there's something very special and unique about those bonds. And, I want to see this for generations to come in Madison. I really do. It strengthens our community when we know that we can continue to be there for one another and help each other be their best. And it's what truly builds great communities. And I truly want and expect and believe that MMSD can be part of a destination just like our city can be.
And I want to ask you about your bigger vision. Now that you've got your feet wet in the school pool, if you were to identify, let's say, like 3 priorities for the coming 5 years, what would those be?
Well, I've talked a lot about people, purpose, and pride in my entry to the school district. Our work is about how we connect with each other. Here's an example of this. I spend a lot of time working with students individually, small groups, and whole groups, if that's what it calls for. And I'm always taken aback by how our students express themselves. And what they're really yearning for is connection to each other, connection to their teachers, connections to the world. And that's what education provides in creating a strong educational community. So one of my priorities is just that, focusing on our people and finding ways that we can remain connected to each other and support the great work that we do. And that starts for us even before pre-kindergarten. That starts at birth, some of our early screening programs that we do, or play-in, or a program we run through MSCR, where children and their families are coming in for community education. It's just a fantastic way for families, students, and our staff to get to know each other and build strong communities. We want MMSD to be that destination for our families. We have a huge investment in your literacy. Our kindergarten through first and second grade, we've reduced class sizes. We got training through letters and not only meeting the requirements of Act 20, the Reading Act in Wisconsin, but also because it's the right work for us to be aligned in the approaches that we're using to make sure that our students are receiving the foundational elements of reading so they can learn to read before they read to learn in their later grades. We know that that's such a game changer for students and how they experience school. One of the other priorities is exploration through curricular opportunities for our middle school students and making sure that the career and technical education choices that await them in high school and in the workforce are something that they begin to be exposed to, even in middle school, so that they have a well-rounded extracurricular and elective opportunities in middle school. It's really important that we don't, distinguish that light that our students have through their elementary experience, and that they can run into middle school truly exploring what opportunities they want to seek in the future. As I mentioned, we just invested heavily into our 4 comprehensive high schools, Capital City, for our high school programs, and they are ready for the next iteration of 21st century learning. I mean, these are incredible facilities that we have just created, and the opportunity that our students have to work together, to work with their staff, but to also bring industry and communities into our schools has never been better than it is right now. And relying on the wonderful partners that we have, I think is an excellent opportunity. Bianca, 61% of MMSD graduates last year graduated with at least some college credit. So it tells me that there's great interest in making sure that our students are prepared for their future. And I think that 61% is great, but this community should expect me and expect our district to be accountable for 100%, for our students to get college credit or some sort of credential that will give them standing in their community to do the great work in joining our workforce or going into the military or a skilled trade or an apprenticeship. And I'm just really excited about these opportunities because I believe in our students and I believe in our community.
Well, Superintendent Gothard, I feel like so touched by all of the work that is happening. And I know this is, not the easiest time. There's so much care around. And man, you're keeper of the light. Everyone who's keeping the light for the children and on their paths and their educational journey at Madison. It really means a lot. And we're so grateful that you gave us the time today to hear about the referendum and kind of the school district's thoughts behind it before folks head to the polls.
Well, I sincerely appreciate it. And again, I just ask our community to please make sure that you check with the information that we have, that we've provided. Make sure that you get out and vote. This election is extremely important for our community and really for our nation for so many other reasons. And I really just encourage all of you to take an interest in our public schools and especially MMSD.
That's Joe Gothard, the superintendent of the Madison Metropolitan School District. If you'd like to dig more into our election coverage, including our other conversations about both the MMSD referendums or the cities, head to our show notes for more links. We should note the Madison Public Schools Foundation has previously been a sponsor of CityCast Madison. With that said, our episodes are always produced with 100% editorial independence from any of our sponsors. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed the show, why not share this episode with a parent or grandparent of a child in Madison schools? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, don't forget to finalize your voting plan. Vote, vote, vote.